Indie games have taken the entire industry by storm these last couple of years, specifically in these last couple of months of 2025. And in this video, we're going to be talking about how indie games are doing more than just surviving these days. They're actually thriving, and in a lot of cases, they're outpacing the AAA gaming studios. AAA games have traditionally always been the heavyweights of the gaming industry. They have massive budgets, they have all the new technology, new graphics, they have like real marketing campaigns. You have games like Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Final Fantasy. Pretty much the major games that you think about when you think of video games are going to be AAA titles. But recently, the AAA model has shown some signs of strain with these increasing costs. Developing a AAA game now exceeds hundreds of millions of dollars in most cases, and this financial pressure just forces studios to aim for mass appeal, and that's a lot of the times at the expense of innovation and quality. Just look at some of these AAA games that have come out these last couple of years. They're completely unfinished. Star Wars Outlaws is a major one that comes to mind, and there's so many other woes of Ubisoft, but there's also many other gaming studios that are in the same boat as them. Just think about the amount of AAA titles that have these insane development delays on top of the insane market saturation with so many other big budget games fighting for competition. I love this one quote from Polygon, which says, "If the goal of every publisher is to have the #1 game in the market, I have terrible mathematical news. There are hundreds of studios and only one #1 game." So these challenges have just opened the door for indie developers to step right in and offer a fresh, less costly experience. For a game to be indie, it basically just means that there's a smaller development team or even just a solo development team as opposed to like a massive corporation. And the advantages of this are very clear. You're able to focus on creativity, you have unique gameplay mechanics, you have compelling storytelling because you're not barred into this corporate structure. One very, very recent example that pops into my mind, a game that I'm actually playing right now, is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It's developed by Sandfall, and it's just like this turn-based RPG. It's been on a lot of people's watch list for Game of the Year, and it sold over 2 million units in just 12 days of release, which those are great numbers for an indie game. And another recent example of a game that's very, very different from Clair Obscur is Schedule One, which I'm sure you already know, but it was a solo-developed open-world drug-dealing simulator that pretty much topped Steam's charts, and it was trending on every social media platform ever. And these games are so drastically different from AAA titles because they feel so much more authentic, so much more genuine and passionate, and it doesn't feel like a money grab or something like that. I think the gaming community, myself included, is just sick of spending $70 on games that are unfinished, unpolished, and even at their core, they're just not good games anyway. So when I see a drug dealing simulator pop up on my Steam with overwhelmingly positive reviews, of course I'm going to play that. AAA studios have just been at the top for so long, they maybe just thought they could stop putting in the extra quality and we wouldn't notice. But that's right where indie studios came in and gave us something to bridge that gap. Indie games have been around just as long as AAA games have, more or less. Even Minecraft was originally an indie game with Mojang, but these last 18 to 24 months have just really swung the pendulum in the favor of indie games. And these successes are really just highlighting exactly how indie developers are leveraging just their raw creativity to captivate players instead of, using marketing schemes. You know what I mean? They're just using a great game to market itself. And obviously, these indie games aren't just blowing up for no reason. There's several important factors that contribute to this rising success. The first being creative freedom, which I talked about briefly just a few moments ago. It's like when a musical artist finally signs to a record label and then they realize they have to play what the label wants. It's not what they want, it's not what fans want, but they have to do it because they're signed to it. That's exactly what it's like with the AAA studio. You don't have that freedom. You don't get to make games that you want to make or that the community wants to play. You're making what's going to make a profit. At the end of the day, that's all a business is. So without the constraints of these large corporate structures, indie developers can take those extra risks and explore unconventional ideas like a drug dealer simulator. And considering the small scale of indie development teams, there's typically stronger relationships with the player base, and that creates more loyalty, so the community engagement is all around higher. And these things matter when you're trying to get some traction on a small game. I'd say the biggest factor in all of this is probably the advancements in game development tools or technology like Unreal Engine 5. It's completely leveled the playing field at this point. It's allowed for small teams to produce high quality games on the same engine as a AAA studio. And another tool that comes to mind that really helps indie games get out there is Steam. I mean, it's not like it's something new, but without that platform, these indie games wouldn't have the same global reach that they do. Somebody could go onto Steam and download a AAA game the same way that they can download an indie game. So again, that playing field has just been leveled out little by little over time, and now here we are, and it's like indie games are really giving AAA games a run for their money. I mean, I'm talking kind of ambiguously, but I could talk just from my own personal experience. When I'm scrolling through the Steam featured playlist and I see a game that's only $14.99, I'm much more likely to take a chance on it than spending $50, $60, $70 on another game. And that's not to say that all indie games are cheap and all AAA games are expensive. It's just typically that's how it goes, considering indie games just have less costs. So you can see how all of these factors that I've talked about really in the entire gaming industry, but also with leveling the playing field and then the decline in quality from AAA games would contribute to the growing appeal of indie games. I hesitate to say, but I mean, it's kind of like a bit of a revolution of indie games right now, and I'd say that this success has caused a bit of a reevaluation of the direction that the gaming industry is heading in. Some studios have began adopting this hybrid AA model, which is kind of like a sweet spot, like a middle ground. It takes the polish of a AAA game and then the creativity and the low costs of indie games. So like the best of both worlds. I think Split Fiction by Hazelight is a pretty good example of that, and it was decently successful, and I'm sure that's the direction that more and more games will be heading in the future, so that both AAA studios and indie studios can coexist and thrive equally in the industry, because there's always going to be both. What's your guys' favorite indie game to come out recently, and do you agree with everything that I said in this video? Let me know down in the comments, and besides for that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.